Now I'm going to sand it with two different grades of paper. First 100 and then about a 180. Break all these corners here. And then I may have to fill a few little discrepancies that we got going here where the glue lines were. And then over here, of all places, for my dowel pin to have ended up, and it's right here on the shoulder, that plug dowel pin, so I got to fill that up a little bit and then sand it. You know, no matter how carefully you try to plan some things, that's what happens. So I will fill that, and then next time you see this, we'll be over on the bench and we will attempt to separate it. Well, the next thing we need to do is to split the pattern. You recall that this started as two pieces, and remember I glued it together with a piece of paper in between, and you remember from your 8th grade shop class when you did turning on the lathe that you probably did something similar to this. And I'm trying to do this with one hand, but I'm just working my Boy Scout knife down, and you can see it separating. And I'm going to do that the full length here, but I got to put the camera down in order to do it. Okay, now the project is separated, and you can see that I didn't put any glue right in the center here where I knew it wasn't necessary, but it did separate quite well. But my worst nightmare is always that maybe I can't get it apart and the whole thing is ruined. So I'm going to install some dowel pins on the one side, taper them ever so slightly, and then they will align with the other dowel pins. Another step that I have to do, and I may not show on camera, is these core pins are longer than necessary, and I have laid out a line on each end. I'm going to saw off the waste, and then I'm going to put it on the belt sander and put about a 5-degree taper on there, and that'll go for both sides. I already laid that off on the lathe, and that will get rid of most of these center holes, I hope. If not, I'll have to fill them. Then I'm going to put a fillet in here, and we'll do that with body putty, I believe. And there'll be fillets in here. No need for it here, because let's remember now, these are core prints on the end, and those will be used to support this sand core. And you can see now that it isn't quite as long as what we thought. It's going to be just right. And remembering that this portion here is only used to hold it in the chuck while we bore it later on. We bore the actual cylinder hole. So it's shaping up quite nicely. It's been sanded and filled. Pretty smooth as it needs to be. You know, a fella hates to spend too much time on this because I'll probably only make one casting from it. Then there's one other thing that I have to do, and that is I have to put the saddle on it. Now the saddle, if I can show you from another casting, this perhaps isn't the best example to show you, but there's going to be an extended portion on here that will be used for the oscillating portion. So we've still got more to do. Also, I'm starting to work on the heads. I've already got that laid out on Baltic birch. Wasn't quite thick enough, so I got another one being glued up here. Very simple, but we'll get back to that as well. I cut out 2 circles. Actually, it's one. I guess you saw me laminate this before, and this is a tapered plug glued on there, and all we got to do is put a fillet in there. This is going to be the lower plug at the bottom of the engine. Now I'm working on the saddle. Let's call this the saddle for lack of a better name, because it kind of rides up on there. But the way I made this was simply to saw this out on the bandsaw, and I used just a 2x4. I'm getting sick of working with that hard maple because I knew there'd be a lot of sanding to do on this. I simply cut out 3 of these on the Delta 12-inch or 14-inch bandsaw, and then they're ready to sand. By the way, you need to have 2 of these saws. There's one with a 1/4-inch blade, and then you need to have one with a 3/8 blade too. Don't tell me they cost too much. They cost approximately 56 packs if you buy them used. Not the beer, but the bandsaws. You need 2, maybe even 3. I then carefully sanded these down to the layout line so all 3 of them came to a pretty good match. And then we needed to have a bit of an angle on this, and I did that by putting it on the Delta 6-inch belt sander at 3 degrees, and I put an angle on there. There's also an angle on the end. I guess it would be like this. And the 3 of them were trimmed so that they would fit in here. And now the next step, I'm going to glue all 3 of them together. 1, 2 joints. I'll do that separately, and then after that's glued and the glue has dried, then I'm going to sand these again on the belt sander at 3 degrees on both sides. Then the whole assembly will be ready to glue onto the cylinder cast pattern. I will then fill all of this with body putty so that there's a nice smooth fillet. This is going to be a little bit too high. Might be a chance of shrinkage there, so I will probably remove about 1/8 of an inch or more on the top. If I need any more cut down, I will machine it when it is in made of aluminum. We're getting to where we're about done with this.